2. Like clockwork, as soon as I stopped the stream tonight, everything started working. And it was a simple mistake. So let's go and look at that real quick. And I'm gonna stitch these two together for YouTube and, keep on trucking. Still not gonna stick around too long. I just wanna come back real quick and be like, oh yeah, we figured it out. So, let's pop back over to VS Code. So, I was coming through here, it was like, what in the fuck is going on? Da-da-da-da-da. Ran Docker Compose, PS. It's like, it's listening on port 3306. What's up? And then as soon as I looked, right here, it clicked. We weren't binding the host port 3306 to the container. So what we were actually connecting to was another running container on the system that was configured properly. So immediately come in here, go to our service configuration, our Docker Compose file, bind the ports, and try to restart, and it fails with this bind for all interfaces. Port 3306 failed. Port is already allocated. So I went and stopped the other container, restarted this. Everything's good. But that said, I haven't actually run our little node script again to make sure it's actually working. So we could be in store for like another, bullshit 30 minutes wasted on 2 lines of, not even code, 2 lines of everyone's favorite YAML. So let's see if it works. So we can come back here. We're gonna run our stick again. Oh, and look at that. It works great. There's our list of databases. So, like I said before, I've been programming since I was like 5 years old. I'm 35 now. Now, professional, maybe I've only been doing it like 17, 18 years. But no matter how much experience you have, you're going to do stupid shit like this. And you're going to get stuck. So when you're starting out and you're stuck, and you're only stuck for an hour, you should be like, hell yeah, I was only stuck for an hour. I could have been stuck for a week. If you have access to a mentor, don't be stuck for more than 5 minutes before you reach out to them and talk to them. Ask them, hey, take a look at this. When we were working through this, I ain't got a big stream or whatever. I think there were 3 or 4 people watching, and we're talking in chat or whatever. They didn't pipe up. Maybe they didn't see the issue. So it's like, even bringing that extra set of eyeballs isn't always going to fix it. But yeah, this is completely normal. This is going to happen to you every day. You're working on stuff. Part of it though I enjoy, because it's like, it is such a trivial thing, but you get frustrated, and then you get it, and there's like this euphoric, we got it, we can move on and do whatever we're gonna do. Honestly, tonight I don't even know what the fuck we're gonna do. Past this, we can connect with a database, and I'm ready to celebrate. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have kind of more of a write-up in here about what we're talking about right now, and how obvious this was looking back at it now. And again, like when you understand, oh yeah, we were connected to the database, it's like, hell yeah, the password was wrong, or password's whack. The password over there is something that's like an actual password, and it's not used in the root account, So, it is what it is. So let's, we need to get this committed. So let's cancel that. We'll come in here, and first thing is let's get this mess back in order. We kind of thrashed around a little bit, trying out a bunch of wild shit, and that's something else to watch out for, is when something's not working, but like we knew that config module was right, it had the right passwords first, but I come in here and I start like putting static passwords to like know for sure. Don't do that. Like, you don't need to thrash around. A lot of times, you know, this is a simple example, but a lot of times you do that kind of thing, and it only makes the problem harder to kind of tease apart and figure out what's going to get back on track. So, you know, keep it simple, slow down, back up, stop your stream, go look at it when there's no pressure. Oh, no pressure. And come back and knock it out. So let's come back and be like, MySQL. I changed it from database to MySQL. I don't know how I feel about that. But it does solve the config.database.database OCD issue. So user config MySQL password config MySQL database. Technically, we should go ahead and add one for port. So we'll go ahead and type, you know, the code we wish we had, and then we'll go add that. This is always 3306, or the default's 3306. But let's say you're running like multiple containers, you might run for like multiple apps. You might run one on 3307, 3308, 3309, whatever. So we'll build in support for that if someone wants to run this, you know, in their own setup. These two I went ahead and added. I may actually just remove this. Basically, what this allows you to do is run multiple queries inside in one raw query. That's something that's disabled by default. We're never gonna do that. Let's just turn it off. Time zone's important. We're gonna support time. We're gonna have time zone support in WAC. So you're gonna be able to see when someone logs in, they'll set their time zone at some point, and if we do like notifications, things like that, we don't want to notify them, you know, when it's 2 in the morning their time, but it's, you know, 3 in the afternoon your time or whatever. So this will help do this. What this is going to do is store everything in the database in UTC. So we'll have kind of a common time that's in the database, and then we can present that to the user in terms of their time zone. So yeah. So this brings our connection back. Let's make sure it still works. Node stick still prints for databases, so we're good. What else do we want to change? I'm thinking that's it. Fix database connection issues. Ta-da. Something else I noticed after stopping the stream, I need to play around with like the music mic balance or whatever, and that's just going to be a trial and error thing. So like these first few are just going to suck so bad. I think mic sounded okay on the last one I listened to, but like the music was gone, and it's because the music was too loud in my headphones. So what I need to do is like play around with my audio routing so that it's quieter in my headphones but a little bit louder for the stream, and then adjust the compression ratio on like the ducking for the system sounds, so that when my mic's active, it kind of compresses, squishes down the signal on the system sounds. Bunch of shit don't even matter. I really don't want to do it, but we're gonna have to do it for production quality. So we already pushed. We're good. So we get to update our Kanban board. We get to move something to done. So let's go ahead and do that. Boom. Sad as it is. Super sad. 2 hours. We walked through last night's work, and we connected to a database. You know, so we're doing wild and crazy things. I'd say before, let's go back and let's get our migrations directory set up, because that's going to be the first thing we do over here, and it's really maybe the last the last bit of boilerplate, boring shit before we actually like work on a feature. So let's do that so we can focus a little bit better tomorrow. So what I like to do is make a directory at the root of the folder called database, and then like a migrations directory in there. And we'll also make a seeds directory, which we're not going to have anything in either of these right now. So we want to track the fact that these exist in Git, but we don't have anything to put there. So we use this .git keep convention. It just creates a marker file in there. So remember, Git only tracks files, it won't track directories. So we have to put that in there to get the directories kind of to show up. We may go ahead and make us a user table. So we may have a migration for a user table, and we'll just make an empty table. And that'll be a good example of, okay, we're gonna add fields to a table tomorrow. So when you install Knex, you actually end up with a Knex command line tool that's in your node modules /bin directory, and there's a bunch of things in there. So because all these npm packages obviously publish like a command line tool with them or whatever. We only use like, a few of them. But yeah, so we're gonna use Knex. What I like to do is take this path and I'll put this in my path environment variables, so that if I'm in a node project, I can just run one of these commands and this relative path is in my path. So it'll look in the current node module /bin directory for this. So that's, if you see me typing like Knex, just know that that's actually here. And unless you put this in your path, you're going to have to type out the full thing. So we'll do Knex, and we aren't using a Knex file. We might use a Knex file at some point. Knex file is basically a way of setting up multiple different environments. Since we're using .env, we're only ever really going to have one environment, but we may use that Knex file to set up a test database, so a database specific for testing, where the environment variable or the environment would be testing, and we would, in our test suite, like swap over to that while the tests are running, and then swap it back to whatever node env was to begin with. But I'm a big fan of like, don't overgeneralize, don't over architect. That doesn't mean write shitty code and phone it in or whatever, but we don't need this right now, so we're gonna defer until we do need it. We'll just keep it in our heads. So we need to make a migration. So I guess actually the first thing we should do is just use Knex and get it to connect to in our database. So we can do that by running this migrate current version, which will just check the current version of the migration tables in the database, which aren't there yet. So we'll just see what it does. So current version. All right. So the first thing is, I think this command line tool requires a Knex file to receive its configuration. So immediately we need to go make one. There probably is a way to get it to use this Knex instance that we're exporting. But yeah, let's not worry about it right now. So let's go look up the syntax for the Knex file. If I remember correctly, the Knex file it's a JavaScript file that exports an object that will end up with like this config object, but it'll be nested under a key, like production or development or whatever. So let's just wing it, and let's see what happens. So if I Knex file.js, I can module exports, and let's say I had production, and then this would be that object or whatever. But let's do something where it's like, I'm not going to have production or development or whatever. Let's call it like primary or main or application. Because I do like the idea of application is just whatever your .env is, that's what's going to be there. And then testing will be the side thing. And the test database might use SQLite or something like that to run faster. So we'd have a setup like this eventually. For now, we're just going to leave that off. So we'll say application. Now, what I should be able to do is cut this and put it here. And then I need to bring in my config module, which this module won't need anymore. I'll bring that in up here. All this stays the same. There's some additional settings for our migration directories that we may want to set. Although I think these are the defaults, so we may not have to. But we'll see. So now I need to bring in my Knex file. So I can do that by doing something like this. And just kind of work my way up until I'm there. So this will be that Knex file. But remember, this is an object that has that application thing there. So I need to say knexfile.application. And then that will be the config. We just kind of move the object somewhere else. Move the object somewhere else where our command line tool knows to access it. So let's try again. Got a different error. So can't find module.config. So let's look in here. Okay, that makes sense. We just copy pasted this to the root of the directory. Now this relative path's wrong. So we'll have to say /source API config. And now it should find it. Yeah. Alright, so required configuration client is missing. Required. So we're missing something. Client is there. It's probably in the wrong place. So this is the point where you just jump to the documentation. So we'll say Knex file. Knex file. And then we just kind of look at what's going on. Environment configs. So this is more of the style we have. So I think what's happening is the command line tool is expecting to look. It isn't like gonna honor our application key or whatever. That is defaulting to something. It's probably development. How about we simplify right now and we just say fuck the top level keys. We'll just export this stuff. And we can do the research and come back and fix, if we want to do this application thing later, we can do that whenever we bring in our testing database. It's not important right now. This should work. Okay, so current version, none. Which is great. Now, if I remember correctly, this actually creates it creates tables to track the migrations. So we can show tables, and yeah, sure enough, it created Knex migrations and it created Knex migrations log. So now we know it can connect, and not only can it connect, it functionally created the migrations table and all that. That'll be empty. So now let's come back over here and we'll make a migration that creates a new table. So we can say Knex migrate make create users table. Conventionally, I always use kind of snake case, so all lowercase everything and then spaces are replaced with underscores. I do this just because the files look better to me when they're created into the migrations directory, but you can do whatever you want. It's just a convention. So you can see here it creates this migration file. And whenever we imagine like the entire purpose of the migrations is to manage your SQL schema. So the tables that are there and the fields that are in those tables and all that. So rather than you going into your database and doing that all by hand, you script it so that it can be reproduced in other environments. So imagine you get all this set up, create your users table, you create some channels, tables, messages, all this stuff, and then you have to tell someone else, okay, well, you set it up. And you got to go create a users table, and you got to have a migration or a messages table, and a channels table, and a notifications table, and all these things. This is the answer to that. So the way these work is each one of these, and this will be the same in pretty much any language you work in. If that has like the database connector or data query builder with a migrations feature built into it. So each migration you create is going to have an up side of it and a down side of it. The way it works is when you apply a migration, it runs the up function, but sometimes you'll need to be able to roll back. So the down function is basically doing the reverse of whatever you do in your up function. So if in your up function you create a table, then in your down function you should remove a table. If in an up function you add a field, in the down function you should remove a field. If in the up function you add an index, then in the down you should remove that index. So it kind of works that way. If you're feeling spicy, you don't write a downside because you'll never roll back. But that's basically what you're saying. There's no coming back from that. Give me one second, I'm gonna let this cat out because he's about to freak out. We got that cat. He's probably 10 years old. We found him in a field, and he is wild as hell. And around this time, midnight or so, he just gets super crazy. So he's sitting over there, like making this god awful sound, with his ears back, eyes wide, like about to jump on somebody. So hopefully he's not doing too much damage out there right now. So here we're given an instance of a Knex object, and I don't think we're going to get any kind of auto completion here, which is kind of poopy. So there's a way of controlling this template. Like when you make a migration, you can give it a template, and it'll, instead of writing using these semicolons, which gross semicolons, and maybe you want these to be async functions. Well, there's a way of controlling that, but I need to look real quick and see what that is. Because the other thing I like to do is put a type hint at the top of the file that describes what this Knex instance is, and that lets VS Code like do auto completion stuff for me, which is very helpful. Because again, I don't like committing this type of stuff to memory. I just don't. It's not valuable to me. You're not going to be making 40 migrations a day, so it's like knowing how the Schema Builder is laid out, intimately, is not like going to give you any kind of competitive advantage. But let's see. I'm poking around another project right now just to kind of copy paste. Let's see. I don't know what the song is, but it is going. I had to find a Spotify playlist that had like non-copyrighted music, because I was playing my normal jams and it it muted everything. So I was playing the illegal copyrighted music. Well, this is just lame. I'm not finding my example to copy paste from, so we may just roll with this and just wing it. I know what it is, but this is something I kind of wanted to demonstrate just because. One last project and then we'll drop it and move on. I know we did it in one of the projects. Yeah, it's not in here. Okay. Okay, so the way I end up writing this is something like this. So I make these async functions just because it's easier to, basically the way Knex migrations work is you're going to interact with a Schema Builder interface provided by Knex, and it's all promise based. So you have to either return the promise from this function so that the migration tool knows that the up function is done after that promise resolves, or you have to await that promise inside of here. And that the await, remembering to await is easier for me than remembering to return, especially when there's like multiple operations happening inside of a migration, which as an aside, you kind of want to limit that. You want to keep your migrations very atomic and small. But there are times where you will write a migration inside of a transaction across two tables, and they either have to pass. So you have to do all of that as an atom or not. So, you know, it happens. So you can come into the documentation and be like the Schema Builder, not Schema, Schema. So Schema Builder, and then this is kind of the interface. So it'd be like Knex.schema, create table or whatever. So if we wanted to make a table, this is what we use. So we'll go ahead and say users table gives you this interface. So basically this is how you add your fields. So how about this? We'll say, we'll go ahead and do a username. Timestamps is a wrapper around, like, it'll create two date time fields, one called created at and another called modified at. I don't really care about those. So I'm gonna just drop that. Ultimately, this increments field right here, this is also another wrapper around. This creates a primary key, or it creates a field called ID that's an integer and a primary key. We'll roll with that, but I generally don't like. We'll roll with it. I usually don't just depend on an integer-based ID, specifically around APIs. So what I may do is have like an ID there as an internal key to be able to do build queries on and do foreign key relations and all that kind of stuff. But I'll also have like a UUID surrogate key or something that's what shows up in the API, and it's less guessable, so that you don't end up with this like, we get a /user/1/2/3/4. But for this, we'll just create our table and be good. Delete. It's probably like destroy table, but we'll go with this and then go look it up. And then we have to remember to await both of these. So drop table is probably what it's going to be. Drop table, yeah. I need to make a note. I'll go get the find migration schema or template feature in Knex, and also the JS doc for type inting the Knex instance passed we'll get that layered in tomorrow. I'm just seeing your comment, right? Working on side projects is kind of unnecessary. Just do leak code. Honestly, man, I don't even know what that means. But it's 12:17. My brain's barely working, so you may be speaking the truth, and I'm missing it. Okay, so migrations are working. We are gonna have to configure it though, because look who created our migration. So let's go ahead and figure that out. So we'll pop back over to Knex. We'll go back to our Knex file. And we're going to be hunting for migrations directory, I think. So migrations. I bet if we do like a Knex init, it'll just be there. Let's do that, might be faster. So we'll move our Knex file to Knex file poop.js, and then we'll Knex init. And then we'll look at this as an example. Man, that's lame. Okay, so that is right. I think it is directory. Sure, it's directory. So let's bring back our Knex file poop to knexfile.js. Dab. Hell yeah. Yeah, it's just directory. It's just directory. Alright, so let's do this. Go to the process again. Knex, migrate, make, create users table. And it made it in the right spot. It's a miracle. Now we can run this. With any luck, it creates a users table. Boom. So, yeah, there's a table with our primary ID, primary key ID, and username, and there's more stuff we want to do this. Like, username is going to need to be indexed. We're going to obviously add a bunch of other fields. We need a password field to track our gesture image and all that. We'll do that tomorrow. So now's a good time to commit. Figure Knex migrations. All right, let's see. Yeah, so I think tomorrow I'm gonna pick one of these and go through it. I want to start with this because I think this will be more fun to play around with. But ultimately we're gonna end up getting both. I think I am gonna do this one first tomorrow. Because I'd like to have this working in testing or tested by the time we get into doing authentication, because if otherwise I'll just have to slime auth and just like not even verify a password at all and just let it through. Just fine, but I think it'll be cool to just have this working out of the box, ready to go. But again, the idea is one, users, there's not going to be like a registration process or anything for people logging into WAC. They're going to type a username like an old school web IRC client, and that'll just be their nickname. We're going to give them the opportunity to handle, basically the first time they log in, they'll type a username, they'll draw a doodle on top of an image that they can customize and like rotate out, but they'll have to remember to rotate back to that image as part of their password whenever they come back to WAC. But then they'll doodle, we'll send that to the server. If that user doesn't exist, we'll create them. We'll store the data URI that they doodled. And then when they come back and try to re-authenticate, they'll doodle again, and we'll take what's on the server for their user account and what they provided fresh, and we'll do an image similarity match using Resemble.js to determine and basically set a threshold for like if it's 95% a match or whatever the factor is going to be. We'll say, okay, that's a successful auth attempt, and we'll let them in. But before any of that, we need some of this kind of plumbing to be able to do. So on the front end, there's going to be a component for dealing with the doodle. So having the controls, having a set of background images that they can rotate through, and the controls for rotating through, managing the canvas that they can interact with to actually draw and do all of that, and then ultimately producing an event whenever they finish doodling or whatever or it could be a v-bottom bound prop or something like that. That is the data URI that we'll send to the backend. So that's the one part of it, and that's probably enough. That's a whole 30 minutes, 40 minutes of work to do that. Especially since I don't have a whole lot of experience messing around with Canvas. So there's going to be some learning to be had there. But on the back end, it's going to be receiving that data URI, and we have to write our query to pull from basically write our authentication process. And that isn't just going to be, you got to add that. We're going to be doing something JWT-esque for our authentication. So when they authenticate, they'll get back a bearer token that the front end will use to authenticate all future requests. We're actually going to use a technology called Passetto, which is just a opinionated JWT implementation. So we will back end, say authentication API will issue Passetto tokens to the front end. So we'll have to go write all of that, like write middleware for handling it, and then attaching the current user to res.local so that it's kind of accessible throughout the application. Yada, yada, yada. A lot of fun stuff. But yeah, I do think I'm going to focus on this tomorrow. Seems more fun. And then over in the ideas, there's a whole pile of stuff we're going to look on. So everybody, this is a pull repo. Everybody can go see the projects or the project board and kind of everything we're going to be working on. If y'all have any suggestions, or like you look through here and be like, oh, it'd be nice if, or here's an acceptance criteria you hadn't thought of, or maybe isn't included in the card. I've got discussions open. You can open that, have a conversation. Twitch chat's always a good place if you're here while I'm streaming. I'm also publishing the streams to YouTube, and then like cross-linking them back to the pull requests. So, and then at some point I'll go and update the pull request to be more like blog posty in a way. But yeah, Oh, last thing I didn't cover early in the stream earlier tonight before we had the fail boat hit us. Um, I'm planning on, for every one of these merge requests, like this one I need to go rename. But I'm gonna label them according to kind of what was touched during the work. And the idea is that maybe someone could come in here at some point and be like, well, I want to find all the times Dustin did something with Vue. So they could filter and see all the episodes that dealt with that, and then jump off to YouTube and see if they really want to see some idiot talk for an hour and a half about, you know, trying to be a developer. But yeah, we'll see. Or I'll you know, get lazy and not do any of this, because it is a lot of, like, you know, manual typing shit, which, you know, I'm a huge fan of. But yeah. So tonight started out, you know, I wanted to actually do a feature tonight, and then we got sidetracked by this dumb shit. So tomorrow's the night, and the day after is New Year's. So happy early New Year. Anyway, I think this is all I want to do. Gotta go play a game or something before I go to sleep. My mind will not shut off. Let's poke through here one last time. Yep. All right, well, I'll be on tomorrow, probably like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock Eastern, something like that. And we will pick it up again. All right, later, y'all.